Raider Nation, it's time for some breaking news. What's up, Raider Nation? If you're all about the silver and black, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into the biggest question buzzing around the Raider community right now. Who will the Las Vegas Raiders pick in the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft? Will they stay at pick number 6, trade back, or even move up to grab someone special? We've got the inside scoop, and you don't want to miss this. But before we get into the latest draft rumors, if you're a true fan of the Raiders, make sure to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a single update. We're building the biggest Raiders community right here, and you're part of it. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. So, who are the top names the Raiders are eyeing at pick number 6? Only 4 names are really heating up right now. One of the biggest? Jeanty, the explosive running back from Boise State. Jeanty isn't just fast, he's dangerous. He's a playmaker who can break tackles, find open space, and even catch passes out of the backfield. The Raiders have shown a lot of interest in him, meeting with him several times, including at the NFL Combine and his pro day. Sources say Pete Carroll and the Raiders staff are keeping a close eye on him, and he could be a surprise pick early in the draft. So, what makes Jeanty special? Scouts are calling him a rare talent with vision, balance, and serious power. A player who could become a star in the NFL from day one. Could he be the next big name in the Raiders' backfield? Or will the team go in a different direction? Stay locked in. More names are coming up next. Let's talk about 2 more big-time names the Raiders might grab at pick number 6. First up, Armand Mew. This guy is a beast on the offensive line. He's played right tackle for 3 seasons, but don't be surprised if some teams think he could switch to the left side. He's athletic, strong, and has the kind of nasty streak you want in the trenches. He plays to dominate. Some scouts are comparing him to Tristan Wirfs, one of the best linemen in the league. And yes, the same Wirfs that John Spytek drafted when he was in Tampa Bay. So don't be shocked if Spytek sees a similar spark in Mew. And lately, there's been a lot of noise around the Raiders and Mew. When major insiders start talking, it usually means something's up. Now, here's the question. Raider Nation's been asking, who will the team actually take at number 6? If we're talking real possibilities, 3 names keep showing up. Jeanty, the electric running back we talked about earlier, Armand Mew, the powerful offensive tackle. And now, let's add one more. Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Graham is a monster on the defensive line. Quick off the snap, strong against blocks, and nearly impossible to push around. He's got a wrestling background, and it shows in how he controls the line of scrimmage. The Raiders already brought him in for a top 30 visit and met with him at the NFL Combine. He also has strong ties to Michigan, just like John Spytek and Tom Brady. If there's one thing we know about the Raiders, it's this. They love building through the trenches. And Graham fits that identity perfectly. And let's be honest, pairing someone like Mason Graham next to Max Crosby? That's the kind of move that could turn this defense into a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. Let's talk real Raiders strategy. When you're picking at number 6 in the NFL Draft, you can't afford to miss. And right now, one name keeps coming up as the most solid, reliable option: Mason Graham. This guy is a machine on the interior defensive line. He's got power, quickness, and elite awareness. Graham's ability to crush blocks, stop the run, and push the pocket makes him a serious threat, and a perfect fit for a team that already has Max Crosby terrorizing offenses from the edge. If you're looking for a safe pick with a high floor and immediate impact, Mason Graham might just be it. Imagine adding him to a front already stacked with energy and toughness. That could completely shift the tone of the Raiders' defense in 2025. But let's not stop there. There's one more name floating around in the mix: Will Campbell, a powerful offensive lineman who some experts say is the most NFL-ready blocker in this class. Now, let's be real. His arm length is shorter than ideal, and that has scared off a few teams. But don't let that fool you. This guy dominates in the run game, holds his ground in pass protection, and plays with real toughness. He's strong, he's smart, and he finishes every snap. The Raiders have done their homework here, meeting with Campbell at both the NFL Combine and during a top 30 visit. That shows real interest. And while some see him as a guard, others wonder if he could eventually step in as a future replacement for Colton Miller, depending on how the long-term contract talks go. Bottom line, right now, the four names that seem most likely to be called if the Raiders hold on to pick 6 are Mason, Graham, Ashton, Jeanty, Armand, Mew, and possibly Will Campbell, just a step behind the top 3. But what if the Raiders decide to trade down? That's a whole different strategy, and we'll get into those names next. Could the Raiders trade back in the first round? Let's talk strategy. While most signs point to the Raiders staying put at pick number 6, don't rule out a trade-down scenario. If the right offer comes in, and the board doesn't fall their way, trading back could actually be smart business. So, who might the silver and black target if they slide down in the first round? One name to know: Jeanty Barron, defensive back out of Texas. This guy is the definition of versatility. Need a nickel corner? He's your guy. Looking for a free safety who can roam the field? Barron fits the bill. He's instinctive, tough, and doesn't shy away from contact. Coaches rave about his football IQ and his ability to do a little bit of everything. Blitz, cover, tackle, you name it. Barron isn't just quick, he's smart. And that makes him a great fit for a Raiders defense that's still searching for that chess piece in the secondary. With Pete Carroll now in the building, don't be surprised if the team targets a defensive back who can play all over the field. Barron fits exactly what Carroll has loved for years: smart, physical, and versatile defenders. So while he may not be a top 6 pick, if the Raiders move down the board, Barron becomes a real option. Someone who could step in early and bring energy and flexibility to the secondary. And this could just be the start. There are more trade-down names the Raiders might be eyeing, and we'll break those down next. Let's dig deeper into some more names the Raiders might consider, especially if they trade back. We've already talked about Jeanty Barron, a Swiss Army knife in the secondary. He stood out in big matchups, especially against top-tier competition like Ohio State. What makes him special isn't his size. It's his football smarts, toughness, and versatility. Some scouts see him as a nickel-only defender, but others believe he can line up all over the secondary. And with Patrick Graham calling the shots on defense, that flexibility matters. Another name rising up the board? Will Johnson, the long, athletic corner from Michigan. Johnson isn't the fastest player out there. His 40-yard dash times raise some concerns, and there are questions about past injuries. But turn on the tape, and all you see is elite coverage. Across 3 seasons, this guy shut down top receivers and played with sharp instincts, great footwork, and high-level awareness. The Raiders met with him at the NFL Combine, and during a top 30 visit, they're clearly doing their homework. There are also interesting connections here. Johnson played at Michigan, same as Mason Graham, and insiders say the Raiders even asked Graham about Johnson during interviews. A strong sign that they're seriously considering him. When you watch Johnson, he gives off Richard Sherman vibes. Not the flashiest athlete, but someone who locks down his side of the field, reads plays before they happen, and just loves to compete. And don't overlook this next name, Jalon Walker, an outside linebacker from Georgia. He might not be a headline grabber yet, but the Raiders have been keeping a close eye on him. Why? Versatility. Walker can rush the passer, drop into coverage, and make plays in open space. He's the kind of hybrid linebacker that today's NFL is built around, and that Pete Carroll loves to develop. So, while many eyes are on the top-tier prospects, keep these 3 names in mind. Jeanty Barron, smart, instinctive DB Will Johnson, a complete corner with big-game experience Jalon Walker, a rising linebacker with multi-position potential. The Raiders are clearly thinking deeper than just pick 6, and with the right trade, one of these guys could easily be wearing silver and black come draft night. Let's keep digging into the kind of player the Raiders are really looking for. One name that keeps coming up behind the scenes: Jalon Walker, outside linebacker from Georgia. He's not your typical edge rusher, and that's exactly why he's interesting. Walker can do a little bit of everything: rush the passer, drop into coverage, play the run. He's got that rare flexibility that defensive coordinators love, and the Raiders are clearly trying to build a defense with moving parts and hybrid players. Think of someone in the mold of a Kyle Van Noy type. Not the same player, but the same kind of do-it-all potential. Now, here's what matters most. Walker comes from a real football culture. Georgia is known for producing tough, disciplined, team-first players, and that's exactly what the Raiders are prioritizing right now. Leadership, accountability, commitment. Walker has all of that, and it shows. Inside the Georgia program, his leadership reputation is already legendary. This ties directly into what the Raiders are building. John Spytek and Pete Carroll want players who've been developed in strong programs. Not just talented athletes, but guys who know how to buy into a team, who know how to grind, and who've earned their stripes in the right environment. Walker might not have elite size off the edge, but what he does have is explosiveness, fluid athleticism, and a motor that doesn't stop. He's one of those prospects where you're betting on potential, and if he hits, you've got a weapon on defense for years. Now, is he a lock at pick 6? Probably not. That'd be a surprise, maybe even the biggest shock of the draft if the Raiders did that. But if they trade back, that's where Walker starts to make a lot of sense. And speaking of surprises, quarterbacks are always the wild card in any draft. They can change everything. Some of you might be wondering, what about Shedeur Sanders? Let's be real. It's hard to imagine the Raiders going that route at number 6. At this point, there's no strong signal from the front office that he's part of their early round plan. But this draft is far from predictable, and we haven't even touched the players the Raiders might trade back up into the first round for. Could the Raiders make a surprise move at quarterback? Don't count on it. There's been a lot of talk about names like Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, and Tyler Shough. But here's the truth. Don't expect the Raiders to spend a first-round pick on any of them, especially not at number 6. Even if Las Vegas trades down, quarterback still feels unlikely in the first round. The front office has shown confidence in Geno Smith, and right now, the plan looks more like finding a developmental QB later in the draft, not spending premium capital on one early. Yes, the Raiders are doing their homework. They've scouted the quarterback class, but that doesn't mean they're targeting one on day 1. The only name with even a whisper of first-round momentum is Cam Ward, and even that feels shaky. So where could the Raiders pounce if they trade back up into the first round? There are 3 names to circle, guys who, if they start to slip, could absolutely trigger a phone call from the Raiders' war room. First up, Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. This kid is the total package: smart, tough, and polished. His connection to Chip Kelly's system, plus his ability to run every route in the book, makes him a dream fit. He reminds many of Jackson Smith-Njigba, who had great chemistry with Geno Smith in Seattle, and you can bet that hasn't gone unnoticed in Vegas. Even though Egbuka wasn't the top guy at Ohio State last year, he still found ways to shine. He blocks, he competes, he fits right in with what this new Raiders offense is trying to build. Imagine him lining up with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. That's a nightmare for any defense. Next name to watch? Michael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. He's not a top 6 target, but if he starts falling, that's when the Raiders might make their move. He's raw, but he's explosive, and the Raiders have made it clear they want to keep building the trenches. If you pair Williams with Max Crosby and give him time to develop, you've got something special brewing. There's one more name they could consider in a trade-up, but we'll get to that in the next segment. Bottom line, the Raiders have their eyes on specific players. Quarterbacks? Not at the top, but a dynamic receiver like Egbuka or a pass rusher like Williams falling down the board? That's when things could get interesting. Let's talk about 2 final names Raiders fans need to keep an eye on: especially if Las Vegas considers trading back up into the first round. First up, Michael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. This guy's a powerful run stopper. He's got serious strength, an aggressive bull rush, and the kind of physical tools that jump off the tape. But here's the catch. The pass rush production hasn't quite shown up. Not yet. He's raw, no doubt about it. And yeah, there are whispers. Is this another Tyree Wilson situation? Another athletic freak with potential who needs time to turn that into production? Maybe. But the Raiders believe in defensive coordinator Rob Leonard, and if he sees something in Williams, don't be shocked if Vegas makes a move. Now, the last name, and it's one you better get familiar with, Kelvin Banks Jr. He's a left tackle, and some insiders are even saying the Raiders might consider him at pick number 6. That would be a bold move, and honestly, it would surprise a lot of people. Banks isn't viewed by everyone as a top-tier tackle. Some scouts even think he might be better suited at guard in the long run. But the upside? It's real. Banks has clean footwork, solid technique, and he understands how to handle pass protection at a high level. He may not have elite length, but he knows how to keep defenders in check. Pete Carroll values smart, tough linemen, and with Banks' connection to Steve Sarkisian, that name carries weight inside Raiders headquarters. So, if Vegas passes on Armand Mew or Will Campbell early, don't be shocked if they circle back later in the first round for Kelvin Banks Jr. Final rankings, Raiders' top options at pick 6. Based on everything we've heard, seen, and studied. Here's how I'd rank the Raiders' most likely targets at pick 6. Ashton Jeanty, explosive RB, top of the board. Armand Mew, physical OT, high ceiling. Mason Graham, rock-solid DT, safest pick. Will Campbell, technician in the trenches. Jalen Walker, versatile edge, surprise factor. Will Johnson, outside cornerback with elite instincts. Jalen Barron, hybrid DB, high football IQ. Trade back if the value's right. Whether they stay at 6 or move around, one thing's for sure, the Raiders have options, and they're not afraid to shake things up.